I was 3 rows back on the right, wedged between a rail-thin Marine whose desert boots still carried Iraqi dust and a nurse from Fresno who hadn't stopped shaking since the lights dimmed. The studio smelled of fresh paint and hot lights, sharp, metallic, like a freshly zeroed rifle barrel. I'd talked my way in with a press badge that didn't quite belong to me, promising an intern I'd only stay 5 minutes. That was a lie. I needed to see it up close, the moment the castle started to crack. Nancy Pelosi hit the stage first. The applause from the left bank was choreographed. 60, maybe 70 pairs of hands clapping in 4/4 time. A Capitol Hill cadence. She wore the same burgundy Armani number I'd seen in a Vogue spread 2 years earlier. $4,000 off the rack. More than the mortgage on my childhood home. The pearls caught the LED wash and threw it back like flares. She smiled the way queens smile before they knight you, or have you beheaded. Same difference. Tulsi Gabbard followed 30 seconds later. No entourage, no flag pin manufactured in China. Just a dark blazer, black slacks, and the bearing of someone who's heard mortars whistle overhead and still showed up for morning PT. The applause on our side started ragged, then rolled like distant thunder. The Marine beside me barked, "Hoorah!" so loud, the sound guy flinched. Tulsi nodded. Not a bow, not a wave. Just acknowledgement that she'd seen us, really seen us. And then she sat. Feet flat, knees apart, spine straight. Parade rest in a chair. I marked the time, 19:59:47, because I knew history had a stopwatch. Chris Cuomo tried the usual TV warm-up. Generations, common ground, bright future. His voice cracked on future. He knew what was coming. We all did. The air tasted coppery, like you taste right before you take a punch you can't dodge. Pelosi didn't wait for his second sentence. She leaned into the mic, that soft grandmother tone that once sold $1 trillion in spending without blinking. Chris, before we start, I think it's important we address the elephant in the room. Some people claim to love this country, yet they cozy up to dictators, appear on RT, parrot Kremlin talking points. Some people are, frankly, useful idiots for Vladimir Putin. The word idiots hung there like a grenade with the pin pulled. I felt the nurse beside me stop breathing. The Marine's knuckles went white around a cane carved with the names of the fallen. Tulsi didn't flinch. She smiled. Not polite, not political, but the smile you give when the ambush you rehearsed for finally kicks off on schedule. She tapped her iPad. The studio screen behind her flickered to life. A timeline in stark red, white, and blue. She didn't raise her voice. She lowered it, forcing every ear to strain. I served in Iraq. I still serve as a lieutenant colonel in the Army National Guard. My security clearance is 20 years old and cleaner than this studio floor. Ma'am, you just called a combat veteran a useful idiot for Putin. That isn't just an insult to me. It's an insult to every kid who died face down in the sand so you could eat $13 ice cream in front of a $25,000 fridge. No applause, just the low hum of 200 people realizing they were watching a murder in slow motion. Only the victim was still breathing. She walked us through the trades. Not fast, not slow. Cadence of a briefing before a night raid. Tesla calls 3 weeks before the EV infrastructure announcement. Big tech buys 48 hours before your committee shelved antitrust. CHIPS Act, NVIDIA, 3.2 million profit. Each slide time-stamped, each dollar mapped to a vote. She never said insider trading. She just let the numbers speak, and numbers don't stutter. I watched Pelosi's face. The Queen's mask cracked, micro fissures around the corners of the mouth, a twitch under the left eye. Her hands found each other in her lap, fingers twisting like they were trying to screw a lid back on something that had already exploded. Then came San Francisco. Tulsi didn't use stock photos. She used her own, taken at 0413 on a July morning when she'd flown in commercial, taken an Uber to Turk and Taylor, and walked the blocks Pelosi hadn't set foot on in decades. Tent cities stretching like trench lines. Fentanyl smoke curling in golden dawn light. A poop map screenshot. Downtown a minefield of brown pins. She zoomed in on one pin, 50 feet from a Montessori school that charged 40 grand a year. She didn't scream. She just let the images burn themselves into the retina. 37 years, she said, voice steady. Median home price, 1.4 million. Median income of the families you claim to champion, 62. You live behind gates, fly private, and tweet about carbon footprints from 30,000 feet. That isn't representation. It's extraction. I glanced left. A woman in a Patagonia vest, hair salon highlights, Pelosi donor badge, was crying. Not soft tears, shoulders heaving, mascara running sobs. Her phone kept buzzing. Texts, probably from friends watching the bloodbath on live stream. She didn't answer. She just stared at the screen like she was watching her own house burn and realizing she'd helped light the match. Pelosi tried January 6th, thought it was safe ground. She invoked, "Democracy is fragile," the mantra that had raised $500 million in donor cash. Tulsi pulled up the Capitol Police request for pre-deployment of the National Guard. Denied 2 days before the riot. She read the timestamp, the signature block. House Sergeant at Arms, reporting to the Speaker. Then the after-action deletion of phone records, lost in a routine upgrade. She never raised her voice. She just let the silence between sentences scream. "People died because of your security decisions," she said. "Then you deleted the evidence and spent 2 years investigating everyone except yourself. That isn't leadership. It's cowardice wrapped in a subpoena." I felt the room tilt. Literally. My recorder slipped off my knee, clattered on the hardwood. No one looked. We were all leaning forward, gravity pulling us toward the stage, toward the truth, toward the reckoning we hadn't known we were starving for. Cuomo tried one last pivot, final thoughts, dignity of the office. Pelosi opened her mouth, but the mic seemed to shrink from her breath. She said something about public service, about fighting for families. Tulsi didn't let her finish. She stood, slow, deliberate, the way you rise when taps is played over a flag-draped coffin. "Stop," she said. Not loud, just firm. The room obeyed. She listed her service. Enlistment after 9/11, Iraq 2004, Kuwait 2008, still drilling at 43. No stock trades, no mansion, no private jet. She pointed at the screen one last time, Pelosi's net worth chart climbing like a fighter jet, while SF's homelessness curve mirrored it downward. "You called me useful idiot. You questioned my patriotism. But I never got rich off my position. I never ignored my district while enriching myself. I never destroyed evidence to cover failure. I never lived in luxury while preaching equality. I never lectured working people about sacrifice while flying private and eating $13 ice cream. You're everything wrong with Washington Nancy, career politician, insider trader, limousine liberal, champagne socialist. You sent other people's kids to die while your portfolio outperformed Warren Buffett. You ripped up a speech about a cancer survivor and a Tuskegee airman on live television and called it resistance. That wasn't bravery, it was aristocracy." She sat. No flourish, no smile. Mission complete. The silence lasted 3 heartbeats. Then the Marine beside me stood. Then the nurse. Then the woman in Patagonia. Then the entire right bank. Then half the left. A standing ovation isn't loud. It's low, rumbling, like distant artillery. Pelosi sat frozen, hands clasped so tight the knuckles blanched. For the first time in 37 years, she had nothing left. Not a talking point, not a donor, not a pearl to clutch. Just the echo of her own words, bouncing off the walls like shrapnel. I slipped out before security herded us. Outside, D.C. was wet. November rain misting the streetlights. I saw Pelosi's Bentley glide away, windows opaque. I saw Tulsi walk to a rented Mini, toss her blazer in back, drive herself into the night. No motorcade, no handler, just taillights disappearing toward the river. I walked the long way to my hotel, rain mixing with sweat. I thought about the Marine's cane, the nurse's tears, the donor's sobs. I thought about the word idiot and how it had just been returned to sender with interest compounded daily. I thought about $13 ice cream and poop maps and deleted text messages, and how sometimes the only thing standing between a republic and a racket is one soldier with an iPad and the guts to press present. Back in my room, I opened my laptop. The clip was already viral, 50 million views and climbing. Comments flew, veterans posting photos in uniform, moms posting eviction notices, kids posting student loan balances. No hashtags needed, just a single line repeating, "I didn't leave the party. The party left me." I shut the lid, leaned back, listened to the rain tap the window like fingers on a coffin lid. Somewhere out there a queen was bleeding donors, and a lieutenant colonel was driving home in a Mini Cooper with 180,000 miles on it. Somewhere out there a city was still stepping around human feces, and a congresswoman was still stepping around accountability. And somewhere in between, I'd watched the castle crack, not fall, not yet, but crack wide enough for light to pour through. And once you've seen the light, you can't unsee it. You carry it like a torch, like a burden, like a promise. I closed my eyes. The rain kept falling. The republic, bruised and broke and betrayed, kept breathing. And I knew in my bones, that night had been the first page of a new chapter, written not in poll-tested platitudes, but in blood truth, by a woman who'd learned long ago that calm is a weapon and facts are ammunition. 13 pages? I could write 13 more. But the story doesn't belong to me. It belongs to every kid who ever raised a right hand, every parent who ever chose medicine over ice cream, every voter who ever wondered if anyone saw them at all. It belongs to the useful idiot who wasn't an idiot, just a soldier, standing post, one last time on live television in front of the whole damn world. And it belongs to us, left standing in the rain, knowing we'd been handed a torch we can't put down. Not ever, not until the last insider trods, the last poop map, the last $13 pint is answered for. So I shut off the light. Outside, the Capitol kept breathing. Inside, I started typing, because witnesses don't get to sleep, not while the castle's still cracking and the lights still spilling out. And that was the night Nancy Pelosi learned you don't call a combat veteran a useful idiot. Not on live TV, not ever. Because veterans don't forget, and they sure as hell don't forgive. I didn't sleep. The hotel radiator clanked like an M2 cycling dry, so I sat on the windowsill, laptop open, rain smearing the glass. The clip was past 100 million now, servers groaning under the weight of ordinary Americans hitting share like they were punching a ballot for the first time in their lives. Let the month eat ice cream trended worldwide. Marie Antoinette had nothing on a Bentley riding speaker with a Sub-Zero full of $13 pints. At 0317, my burner buzzed. Text from a staffer who'd been in the green room. She's bleeding donors. 6 canceled before wheels up. I typed back, tell the Bentley to keep the meter running. Then I shut the lid and walked. DC at night is a different country. Monuments lit like empty stadiums, homeless tents clustered beneath floodlights that never sleep. Ever. I passed a guy wrapped in a Marpat poncho, Iraq ribbon sewn to the collar. He was watching the clip on a cracked Android, volume maxed. Tulsi's voice cracked through the cold. You called me useful, idiot. While you beat the market by 125%. The vet looked up, recognized my press lanyard, didn't care. She just said what we've been whispering in chow halls for 20 years. About damn time. He offered a swig from a paper-bagged bottle. I took it. Cheap bourbon, tasted like diesel and relief. We didn't toast. We just drank and watched the video end again, again. Thumbprints on the screen like blood spatter. By 0500, I was at Union Station. Coffee black enough to etch steel. The early Amtrak crowd stared at TVs bolted near the ceiling. CNN running a loop of Pelosi's face the moment Tulsi pulled up the Tesla slide. They played it in slow motion. Pupils dilating, jaw slackening, pearls swaying as she swallowed nothing. Anchors tried context, but the visual was a knockout punch no commentary could cushion. A construction worker in hard hat pointed, "Look at that. Real-time audit by a lieutenant colonel. Congress can't hide no more." His buddy laughed, spat on the floor. "Hide? Hell, they can't even spin. They're live leaking their own corruption." I boarded the Northeast Regional, car half full, every seat a theater. Phones glowed, earbuds in, same clip, same timestamp. Strangers leaned over seatbacks, talking politics like they talked football last week. A mom from Jersey, purple highlights, nursing scrubs, showed me her Robinhood account. I lost $8,000 on safe ETFs, while her husband pocketed $500,000 on a 3-week option. Explain that to my kid's college fund. I couldn't. Nobody could. That was the point. The train lurched toward Baltimore. I opened my notes, 30 pages of quotes, timestamps, decibel readings. I'd recorded the whole thing on 2 devices, backup in the cloud, backup on a thumb drive taped inside my belt. Paranoia is a habit you keep after embeds, where losing footage means losing truth. I scrolled to the end, Tulsi's final sentence. "You're not democracy, Nancy. You are oligarchy in pearls." The audio meter peaked at 82 dB, not loud, but the silence that followed registered negative. You could hear a conscience crack. Baltimore platform, cold rain. I ducked into a bar called The Fob, plywood walls, unit patches stapled everywhere, dollar bills signed by guys who never came back. The bartender wore a First Cav patch. He'd poured drinks since Kandahar, 2012. Screen above the bottles replayed the exchange. He poured me a whiskey, no ice, slid it like dispatching ammo. "She just fired the first round of 2026, he said. I nodded. And didn't miss. Outside, homeless tents lined the underpass like fighting positions, one fly sheet spray-painted in black. Pelosi net worth, 250M, how's yours? A kid, couldn't be more than 20, stood in front of it, phone flashlight illuminating the words while he streamed to a dozen followers. He looked at me, eyes red. "I make $15 an hour loading Amazon trucks. Her old man made $3.2 million while she voted my warehouse a tech zone, so Bezos gets a tax break. Explain that math." I couldn't. The math wasn't math anymore, it was evidence. I kept walking. Rain turned to sleet, needling my jacket. My phone buzzed. News alert. SEC opens informal inquiry into congressional stock trading patterns. Pelosi declines comment. Informal. But the door creaked open. I remembered Tulsi's voice. They wrote the rules to protect themselves until we vote them out or cuff them up. I smiled, teeth chattering. The cold felt clean, honest. Night fell again, though I'd lost track of day. I found a 24-hour Kinko's, printed the first 7 pages of this story, handed them to the clerk. Kid with gauges, purple hair. Collate, staple, double-sided. 13 pages total when I'm done. He glanced at the headline draft. Useful idiot and other lies. Dude, this is gonna piss off every fancy zip code in America. Good, I said. Print faster. Back outside, sirens Dopplered down Pratt Street. A cruiser paused beside the tents. A cop stepped out, handed a bagged sandwich to the kid under the spray-painted sheet. I caught the officer's eye, raised a brow. Used to be infantry, he shrugged. Saw the clip. Figured I'd do something that doesn't require a subpoena. He climbed back in, drove off. Small rebellion, but fire starts with sparks. I ducked into an alley, thumb drive in my teeth. Opened the recorder again. Tulsi's final cadence played low. I trust their judgment. I thought of the vet under the poncho, the nurse from Fresno, the Robin Hood mom, the cop with the sandwich. Judgment's coming, faster than a Bentley on an open road, slower than justice should be, but unstoppable once it gets the scent. I started typing again, thumbs on phone, gloves off, so the screen could feel the tremor in my hands. Page 8, 9, 10. The sleet turned back to rain, washing blood-dirty gutters into the harbor. Somewhere a bell tolled. Ship departing, maybe, or just midnight. I kept writing, because witnesses don't get to sleep. Not while the castle's still cracking and the lights still spilling out. 13 pages. I'd hit 20 before the sun rose, and the city, my city, your city, kept breathing through cracked ribs, kept punching share, kept passing the torch from hand to frost-bitten hand. And the Bentley? Still running, meter ticking, driver waiting for a queen who suddenly can't pay the fare. Page 11. The sky over Baltimore went the color of old rifle brass. Clouds low, rain steady. City lights smeared across the glass like oil on a Boer rag. I kept walking, coat soaked through, recorder running in my pocket so I didn't miss the next chapter writing itself in real time. My phone vibrated again, this time a signal message from a house staffer whose name I'd never saved. She's calling in chits. Leadership wants floor time tomorrow to bash Gabbard, trying to flip the narrative to partisan hit job. I thumbed back. Let them. Every punch they throw is another ad for her. 3 dots pulsed, then disappeared. The swamp was on its back foot. You could feel the suction from here. I crossed the river to Fed Hill, ducked into a bar that smelled of spilled IPA and brake cleaner. Every screen had cable news muted but closed captioned. Banner across the bottom, Pelosi approval plummets, 34 PTS in 48 HRS, own party faults. Ice cream optics, the bartender, sleeves of ink, 82nd Airborne patch sewn to his apron, snorted. Optics? My guys ate MRE pound cake in Fallujah, while these clowns ate gelato on late night. Screw optics, try integrity. A patron in a faded Bernie tee raised a glass. Integrity don't fit in a Pelosi portfolio. Diversified out of that years ago. Laughter cracked the room like small arms fire. I noted the line, paid in cash, kept moving. Outside, the rain had thinned to mist. My recorder picked up the soft slap of my boots on the brick. Background track for the documentary nobody'd asked me to shoot. I passed a row of parked Harleys, one flying a Gadsden flag duct taped to the sissy bar. The biker under the awning wore a Veterans for Tulsi patch, fresh enough the Velcro still showed. He looked up from his phone, video frozen on Tulsi's salute to the wheelchair Marine. "She just raised $8 million since midnight," he said. "Small dollar. Average donation. $37. That's one MRE and a box of ammo." I believed it. Money talks, but small money screams, and it was screaming loud enough to rattle K Street windows. I kept north, toward Camden Yards. The stadium was dark, O's on a road trip, but the Jumbotron outside flashed a PSA. "Know your enemy. Corruption costs every Maryland family $2,200 a year." Sponsor, nonpartisan watchdog. Logo, ice cream cone with a red slash. Someone in the graphics department had a wicked sense of humor and a mortgage to pay. My phone buzzed again. Email this time, subject line, "You up?" It was a fixer I'd used during the Kabul airlift, now running logistics for a pack launching Tuesday. Body read, "Need 60-second cut of Pelosi trades for Ohio, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin buys. Can you slice by sunrise?" I thumbed back, already rendering, because I was. Every second of the exchange lived on a timeline in my head, frame perfect, audio peaked, ready to carpet bomb the industrial Midwest with the kind of truth you can't unhear. I ducked under an overpass, opened the laptop on a dry patch of concrete between two sleeping bags. A kid, maybe 19, face tattooed with a tiny cross under one eye, watched me boot up. "You the guy who filmed the thing?" he asked. "I witnessed the thing," I corrected. He nodded, pulled out a burner, showed me a TikTok he'd stitched. Pelosi's pearl necklace morphing into stock ticker symbols, ending on the Poop Map app. 13 million views. "Keep it raw," I told him. "Always," he said, tucking the phone away like a sidearm. I exported the 60-second cut, uploaded to the cloud, wiped the rain off the screen. Page 12 was done. 13 coming hot. My fingers were numb, but the words kept flowing, because the story wasn't mine. It was gasoline, and everybody had a match. I closed the lid, stood, looked east. Sky going pewter now, dawn a half hour out. The city's heartbeat picked up. Trash trucks, sirens, early shift at the port. Somewhere a whistle blew, long and mournful, like taps over a flag, or reveille before the fight. I started walking again, recorder still hot, because the night was over, but the reckoning had only mustered for roll call. Page 13 would finish on the train north, Philadelphia, then New York, then every town whose zip code ends in numbers politicians only see on a donor spreadsheet. I'd print it at the next Kinko's, hand it to the next clerk with purple hair, buy the next round of copies with crumpled cash. And, when the last page rolled off the tray, I'd walk outside, hold the stack over my head like a torch, and let the rain soak the ink deeper into the paper. So deep, no Bentley, no pearl necklace, no $13 pint could ever wash it out. 13 pages. But the story, her story, our story, doesn't end. It ships with every share button, every whispered, "Did you see that?" Every small $37 donation that sounds like an MRE and smells like hope. It marches in wet boots at dawn, recorder hot, promise kept. And it keeps walking, long after the Bentley's out of gas, long after the castle's stone is rubble, long after the queen discovers even pearls can choke. Page 14. Because 13 wasn't enough, and the sun still hadn't cleared the row houses. I caught the 0547 Northeast Regional out of Penn Station, last seat in the quiet car, laptop balanced on a tray table that shook with every rail joint. The woman across from me wore a CB hoodie, and nursed a cup of gas station coffee. Her eyes were locked on the replay, Pelosi's pearl tremor in ultra-slow 4K. She caught me watching, tilted the screen so I could see the frame-by-frame. Pupil dilation at 0.47 seconds, micro-swallow at 0.49. "I teach body language at Quantico," she said. "That's surrender. No recovery." I believed her. Engineers call it catastrophic yield, point where steel forgets how to be steel. Pelosi hit it live on cable. We rolled past Baltimore's backside, row houses boarded, windows X'd with plywood that hadn't seen paint since the last recession. Someone had spray-painted new graffiti over the plywood. A giant ice cream cone wearing a crown, melting into dollar signs. The CB snapped a photo, tagged it, had Bernie Bro conversion, posted before we hit 110 mph. The algorithm loved it. Within minutes, it was bouncing around veteran group chats like a live grenade. North of Wilmington, I opened the draft again, page 14 becoming 15, 16. Words came faster than the train. Every clack of wheel on rail was another indictment, another receipt. My inbox pinged. Subject line, "Wisconsin airtime booked." Someone had cut the 60-second spot into Hmong, Polish, Spanish. Languages I can't read, but corruption speaks fluently. Media markets, Green Bay to Kenosha, 250 grand buy, crowdfunded in under 6 hours. The pacemaker money wasn't coming from Coke or Soros, it was coming from bartenders, Uber drivers, grandmoms on fixed incomes who'd Venmo'd $15 because somebody finally said their life out loud. I got off at Trenton, capital of a state where the last speaker went to prison for selling organs out of the DMV. Fitting. The platform smelled of diesel and wet cement. A freight thundered past, hauling scrap metal that looked suspiciously like the gate of a certain Pacific Heights mansion. Metaphor on wheels. I hoofed it 2 blocks to a union print shop. Roll-up door already open, presses humming. The foreman, sleeves rolled high, ink smudges like bruises, handed me the first box. 5,011 17s. Full bleed, headline in 72-point, Franklin Heavy. Let them eat ice cream and other crimes. Backside, every stock trade, date, profit, vote. No commentary needed, the numbers confessed. We loaded the trunk of a waiting '05 Camry. Driver, a retired school teacher who'd cashed a small annuity to rent the car, buy gas, deliver the payload to every VFW, American Legion, Union Hall, and Community Center between Trenton and Eau Claire. She wore a button she'd made herself. Picture of the melting ice cream crown. Text underneath. Corruption has a melting point. We just hit it. I kept walking. The sky over New Jersey looked like tin that had been shot with a .50 cal, ragged holes of blue through low gray cloud. My phone rang. Unknown DC prefix. I picked up. "You're distributing unauthorized material." I laughed. "It's called evidence. Check the First Amendment. Still in service." Click. They'd trace the number, find nothing. "Burner goes in the next trash can," Sim snapped. "Paranoia is just pattern recognition with boots on." By noon I was in Philly, corner of Broad and Snyder, outside a shuttered Sears, where tents lined the wall like sandbags. A guy with a Bluetooth speaker played the clip on loop. Every time Tulsi says $13 pint, the crowd booed louder than the L train overhead. A kid, maybe 12, held a cardboard sign. "My mom chose insulin over ice cream. She died. Thank you, Lut Call." I gave him the last stack of flyers. He handed them out faster than carnival coupons, grin like sunrise. Inside a nearby barbershop, 4 old heads debated while clippers buzzed. One wore a Korea vet cap, another Desert Storm. The Korea man pointed at the flyer. Stock beat market 125%. Hell, I couldn't beat the latrine line in 52. Laughter, then quiet. The barber, inked sleeves, 80-second patch, looked up. We sending this lady back to Cali or to jail? Both, someone said. Start with the ballot box, I told them. Jail comes after the subpoenas. I kept moving. Squirrel River, gray and slow, carried trash and ambition toward the Delaware. On the bridge, I passed a cyclist wearing a day-glow vest, backpack stuffed with flyers, heading west, pedals turning like printing presses. He saluted as he passed. I returned it, civilian style, but sharp. Every revolution needs couriers. Evening, Norristown, factory town gutted by NAFTA and opioids. The old wire mill is now a logistics warehouse. The parking lot hosted a pop-up town hall. Plastic chairs, extension cord, Bluetooth mic. A state rep candidate, waitress until last year, played the clip on a bedsheet screen. When Pelosi's pearls shimmered, the crowd hissed. When Tulsi said, "Poop map," they laughed, then grew quiet, then angry. Anger is energy. Energy turns votes. The candidate closed with, "I'm not taking corporate PAC money. I'm taking your stories. Let's ship the pearls back to Pacific Heights." Applause echoed off brick like rifle reports. I hitched a ride north with a trucker hauling paper. Irony not lost. Cab smelled of coffee grounds and diesel. He wore a Veterans for Peace cap, had a Silver Star decal for a brother KIA Fallujah. We listened to satellite radio, talk show host, usually rah-rah establishment, now playing the clip uninterrupted, then dead air for 7 seconds. Dead air is the sound of a paradigm shift. The host came back, voice low. I've been in this business 30 years. I've never seen a politician disemboweled with such precision on live TV. Stock up on popcorn. This is only round one. We drove through the night, headlights carving tunnels in fog, every mile another line in the indictment. Near Scranton, dawn broke pink and raw, like skin after shrapnel. We pulled into a truck stop, lot full of semis idling. Inside the diner, every booth TV ran the same loop. Pelosi's face, Tulsi's cadence, profit columns ticking like mortar timers. Truckers, flannel, beard, 1,000-yard stare, ate eggs in silence. Forks paused midair whenever the lieutenant colonel said, "Deleted phone records." One guy muttered, "I haul steel for a living. If I delete my logbook, I lose my license. She deletes evidence, gets a headline. Not anymore." He left a 20 on a $6 check. The waitress, name tag Denise, pocketed it, then stuffed a flyer into her apron. Campaign finance, grassroots style. I kept walking, mile after mile of asphalt and anger, corn stubble and closed malls. Each town the same ritual. Print, staple, hand off, listen. In every VFW hall, the same question. Why'd it take this long? Answer, because no one with stripes and receipts had the mic. Until now. Follow-up. She running for higher office? My reply, she's already running. On every screen we keep alive. Page 17, 18. I stopped counting. The story had no last page, just next chapters written in real time by voters who finally learned the taste of blood truth. The Bentley was still somewhere, probably headed south, driver on overtime, meter ticking toward a retirement none of them would enjoy. The Mini Cooper? Last seen northbound, lieutenant colonel at the wheel, windows down, playlist of boots-on-ground anthems, small-dollar donations pinging her phone like distant small arms. I caught sunset somewhere outside Erie, sky on fire, lake like molten steel. I stood on the pier, wind knifing off the water, flyers under one arm, recorder hot in my pocket. A fisherman, Vietnam vet, USS Oriskany, offered me a beer. We didn't talk, we just watched the sun drop, the colors matching the fire we'd watched consume a queen's castle on live TV. He raised his can, I raised mine, and we drank to every kid who ever saluted a flag and came home to find the people they fought for were getting scalped by the folks who sent them. Dark came fast. I kept walking. Behind me, the lake lapped against steel like applause that wouldn't fade. Ahead, the highway hummed, caravans of Camrys and semis and rust-bucket Civics, each carrying a box of paper torches, each driver humming the same cadence. 37 years, $13, $150 million, zero excuses. The math was simple. The march was on, and I was just the witness, pocket full of thumb drives, heart full of thunder, typing every step, because stories don't die unless we let them. Page 19. It's being written right now. In diner booths, in union halls, in burner phones and Bluetooth speakers, in every quiet car rolling north at dawn. The castle cracked. The torch is past, and the ice cream's melting fast. The train hissed into Chicago at 0300. Wind off the lake sharp enough to strip paint. I stepped onto the platform with one duffel, 2 thumb drives, and a stack of flyers soaked in lake effect snow. Behind me, the last coach went dark. Ahead, the city's skyline blinked like a dying scoreboard. I didn't know where I'd sleep, only that I was done walking, because the story had outgrown my boots. I ducked into an all-night laundromat on Archer, heat blasting, smell of detergent and strong coffee. A kid in a 101st hoodie fed quarters into a dryer, screen split playing the clip. Pelosi's pearls frozen mid-tremor. He looked up, nodded once, tore the last flyer from my hand, taped it to the lint-covered wall. Underneath, in Sharpie, he wrote, "Final stop. Vote them out." Then he hit start. The drum rolled, and the paper spun behind glass like a flag drying in a war. We finally remembered we were fighting. Outside, snow kept falling, soft, relentless, covering tire tracks and campaign signs alike. I watched until the flyer disappeared under white, until the dryer stopped, until the kid pocketed his phone and walked into the dark without looking back. That's when I knew. The story didn't need me anymore. It was in every dryer drum, every burner phone, every $13 pint melting in clearance bins across the country. I pulled the thumb drives from my pocket, one for the reporter I used to be, one for the voters who'd never met me, dropped them into the lost and found box by the door. Label read, "If found, play, then pass it on." I walked out, snow filling my tracks faster than I could make them. Somewhere a whistle blew. Freight heading west, maybe, or reveille for the next town. Didn't matter. The torch was already rolling, riderless, down every main street that ever got left behind. Behind me, the laundromat sign flicked off. Ahead, the lake kept breathing, gray and endless, swallowing every echo of every lie. I stopped, took one last look at the skyline, and saluted. Civilian style, sharp as I could. Not to Tulsi, not to the vets, not even to the Republic. To the story itself, because it had finally grown bigger than all of us. Then I turned my collar up, stepped into the snow, and let the storm finish the chapter. The castles cracked. The ice creams melted. And the last page belongs to whoever picks up the torch next.